of heroes, legends old. In his stories their glories unfold. Baz the Bard with strings of gold. His heart cries out the tales he's told.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Meta Report. My name's Baz the Bard, and oh my goodness, what a guest we have, none other than Mr. Bryan Gottlieb. Thank you so much for coming on, Bryan. How's it going?
It is going very well, my friend. I'm continuing on my UK media tour, checking in with you, checked in with my friend Hamish yesterday. So just getting ready to head out to Taipei and excited to finally come on and chat with you. We've worked together a few times now.
Yeah.
Doing events around the world. We worked together in Barcelona and Prague, but we never quite connected here on your show. So I'm glad I got the chance to.
Yeah, I asked you in Prague if you would come on, and sort of like I asked again in sort of like Pro Tour. I kind of chickened out a little bit, it was nice that you said I thought I was coming on. So I was just like, right, okay, let's go for it. And it's nice to wrap up a season just before a new set comes out, you know, to get your sort of like review on how it's gone with the Hunted and how the meta's developed after, you know, Aurora's gone out. Okay, so we're going to catch up in weeks.
I love checking on these things. And honestly, like this is something I kind of do week to week myself anyway. So we may as well do it together in conversation.
Nice. So we'll start off with week 4. Let's get these bits out of the way. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It goes a long way. It helps me ever so much. I'm at nearly 1640, so if we could get to 1700, it'd be brilliant. And if you wish to support me further, I have a Patreon, and you can take the offers that are there as well. So it's 10% off by the same token, the plastic tokens that you see on my recorded games, Thistle Tavern singles for Flesh and Blood, and PCG grading. So every 3 months you will get a code, and basically the amount you pay into the Patreon, you will get that back as a discount off a grading. So most of the time you get a card graded free, so it's not bad. But we are here to talk about games. We are going to Ireland first. This is Púca Púca Games in Londonderry. Started this year or the end of last year. Really good turnout. The Irish community is, you know, driving all the way up north to go and take part. 21 players. 6 warriors in this one. They've come out to play because now Enigma's gone. That takes up 28% of the field, and 3 wizards taking up 14% of the field, because it's a new changing of the guard, and wizards like to play when they're all sort of like when it's all up in the air, don't they?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You kind of every format has a moment where there's a wizard check, and you ask, are they prepared for wizards? And sometimes if you catch them, the answer is no, and you get to blow everyone up for a day, and then maybe that goes away come next week. Although current Kano it's a strange iteration of Kano. I'll say that. It is kind of unlike any of the other iterations of Kano we've seen before, where I think it is less about opposing preparation and kind of about how hot you run. Like a lot of these Kano decks just build so aggressively and are willing to purely gamble. And the maths are kind of saying that gamble isn't working out on the whole. Kano just not converting a lot over the course of this ProQuest season. Doing fine, but not, a dominant performance. So it's been interesting to track those Kano deck lists and see how they've been evolving, but very just ridiculously combo focused. Can absolutely kill you on turn 1 if they find their high roll. And it's a weird spot for the deck to be in. Not my favorite spot for it to be in, but Kano has seen a lot of ebbs and flows in both popularity and kind of how the deck is put together. And this is just another weird detour on the course, I would say.
It's nice to see here that we've got Acilio being more popular than Kano. Whether or not people have got a stack of lightning cards and they go, okay, I'm going to translate those lightning cards into playing a new lightning hero, and further in their collection with a few wizard cards to boot. So it's nice to see he's getting a little bit more popularity than Kano in this instance.
Acilio throughout his time in the metagame has been so popular, and the results haven't really matched up thus far, but people really love that hero. And as a developer, it's a really exciting thing to see because Acilio is weird and unique and was really, really hard to develop. And I wasn't sure how well we did. And, there's obviously still some shortcomings there in terms of how well the hero is actually doing. But in terms of engendering just love for a playstyle and love for a hero, I think we did a pretty nice job with Thistle.
Did you think that he was going to be doing a lot better than what he has done?
Well, the context shifted pretty hard with the book banning. I would say the context shifted entirely. So in a world where those options were available, I would have expected Acilio to do very well. As soon as we made the decision to get away from that place, we knew Acilio would have to take some time to develop. And look, there's so many different modes of presenting heroes to Flesh and Blood fans, and I like them all. I like when a hero comes out strong. I like when a hero comes out middle of the road and we slowly build it up to being the meta powerhouse. I like when a hero suffers, as long as we eventually get to pay them off. Certainly some heroes out there still waiting for that payoff, but we'll get there.
Yeah, there's certainly some heroes waiting for their Rosalia moment. Olympia would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's definitely on the list.
Let's go into the top four. So we've got Stephen McKeever. He's won a skirmish before. When I first started covering sort of like the meta report, Stephen McKeever was one of the top players in Ireland. He doesn't play as much. We don't see him as much. But yeah, he's still got what it takes. It's good to see you there. He's playing Kasai. Evan McTiernan on Dashio, Jack Canty on Prism, and Dylan Thompson on Florian. Dylan's record, he speaks for himself. 2 times Irish national champion, back-to-back champion, 5 ProQuests, an RTN, and 3 skirmishes. One heck of an Irish player, and one hell of a fab player to boot.
Yeah, it was the first name that popped out to me amongst those 4 players. No shade to anyone else in that grouping, but unsurprisingly diverse top 4 here, given how diverse the overall metagame was for this event. And I love seeing Kasai back in the mix. Of course, Andrew Rothermel bringing that hero back into focus.
Absolutely.
With that draw swords focus build. I think a very cool build of Kasai. Didn't really convert too hard in the ProQuest in the aftermath of that battle-hardened victory. But yeah, I think, as the metagame evolves, and certainly with the most recent banning, some heroes coming down a peg or 2, heroes reaching LL over time, so I've still got a pretty good foundation to her. So I don't think we're done with her yet as part of the metagame.
Yeah, I was playing the chap who played Arcane Games and won with Kasai. I made that deck up and was playing it for a bit. I said to Alan, who we do the streaming with, I said, it's not getting the free attacks. And he went, just put draw swords in. And I looked at it and I just went, I'm not paying three to get, to basically save myself 2. I'm losing 1 resource here. When I saw Andrew play, I just went, oh, Alan was onto something then. Let's make that deck. And I have played it. And oh my God, I love it. Really, really nice. Who do you think's going to win between Kasai and Dashio? So we got Stephen versus Evan.
Yeah, Kasai's set up to play some defensive games for sure. Get that value on the dynamos. It depends a lot on how this Kasai deck is built, but not seeing the deck list in the dark, I'll go with Kasai for this one.
Okie dokie. And then Jack versus Dylan. Prism versus Florian. How do you think that match is going to go?
That match could certainly go either way. When it comes down to these scenarios, I will go a lot of times with just the player I know who is almost certainly prepared and ready to go ahead and challenge Prism. And again, I think there is some element of deck building here. This all becomes a lot clearer because Florian obviously had 2 build paths in this ProQuest season. We had, of course, the stacking Florians that tried to set up that OTK kill, and then just the more mid-range traditional Florians. Not sure which one we're dealing with here.
Dylan is more in favour of a Reaping Blade. He's a mid-range player.
Okay, yeah. That pushes me a bit towards the Florian in this matchup. So I'm going to go with Kasai and Florian here.
Okay. Let's see if you are correct. Okay. So Dashio made it past Kasai, and Dylan certainly did make it past Prism. Okay. Dashio versus Florian.
Go Florian one more time. I just think he's got all the tools, right? He's got the defensive options we know, leaning on those rootbound carapaces. Of course, plenty of 0-for-4s. And Dash.io sort of needs to draw very well, I think, in this matchup to overcome.
Okay. Let's see. Was indeed. Dylan takes it down. Well done, Dylan. The gold foil hadn't arrived. So that's a lie because I've got the gold foil opening. So obviously that's an old note that I put there. Sorry about that. So let's see. what he opened, because these are always fun.
Yeah, one of the great moments in Flesh and Blood is you fight so hard for that ProQuest victory, and you don't know exactly what it's worth once you've achieved it. It all comes down to this opening of the gold foil and the big reveal here. I love that this has just become part of the culture, the scene for Flesh and Blood. Is that Spider's Bite?
Yeah, Spider's Bite, that one is. So,
okay.
yeah, that was a good pull.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. So I haven't seen that one pulled before. So, yeah, it's really good. A lot of people keep them sealed, especially for the ProQuest ones. A lot of the other, like the Road to Nationals ones, gets opened. Let's move on.
No gamble, no future, I say. You got to crack those bad boys open and see what you got.
A lot of people sell them to try and fund their trips, don't they? So if you're going to, ProQuest, going to Pro Tour Singapore, it's just like, right, okay, that's gonna go part of the way to fund it. Right, but let's go over to Geek Retreat Cardiff. This is they started covering basically the beginning of the year. They're building it up. So like on the far, I would say, west of of the UK. So slightly smaller, only 11 players for this one. 27 Draconic heroes. We've got 18 Guardians and 18% Guardian and 18% Brutes. So the same uptake there. It's quite nice to see Betsy come out though.
Hey, what a cool event to show up for. Only 11 players, like you mentioned, still building their scene, but 11 different heroes in the room. You're going to sit down and play a different matchup all day long. So fun event to be part of, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Feels a little bit armory-ish that everybody's just takes their favourite one. But no, it's good. Righty.
Yeah, so, but look, I think part of building up the local scene is getting those first tendrils into pro play and getting to experience what Flesh and Blood can be. And then you kind of create this missionary for the game, somebody who's gone overseas and had that experience and comes back and shares it with everyone and just is like, you have to go, you have to be part of this, you have to battle for this. So absolutely. I think there's value in rewarding those small scenes just the same. And
they see the new the participation prizes and the top 4 prizes, and he's just like, oh, Channel 8 frigid, that's quite nice. I wouldn't mind that, having that in cold foil for sure. Aaron Boyan on KO. Aaron basically was one of the old guard. He's come back because he moved to Cardiff, so now they've got a local scene in Cardiff. He's come back playing. Aaron basically spoiled the Briar deck a week before UK Nationals. So he got a hold of that deck, and then everyone in the UK just went, oh my God, we better practice against this first. And then obviously we know how that went. Samuel Parry comes from Bristol. He's playing Prism. He's got 2 skirmishes under his belt. Adam Mann on Syndra and Felix Elias on Azalea. How do you think these matches went?
Historically tough matchup for Prism and KO. Just a lot of poppers, a lot of good aggression, even access to multiple action points. So I have to go with KO in that particular instance. Over on the lower side of the bracket, I just like the disruption of Azalea in this matchup. Again, I kind of think Syndra can always find a way to win. She has high roll potential always, but if you got a pick in the dark, I'm going to go with the disruption.
Okay. Right, so let's see. He says, there we go. Okay, so KO made it through against Syndra. We haven't really seen Syndra really hit her mark. I know when sort of like we were looking at the deck in Prague, I was like, oh my God, I had Sam's deck and I was like, she looks seriously good. But she has not put the results in I thought she was going to do. Just so you know, this wasn't actually played. This was a concession, but they did play it out. Okay, so I have actually got the result of when they played, but it could be different to actually who actually won the event. All right. So who do you think is going to win between 2 very aggressive decks?
I think just in heads up aggressive matches, Syndra has a bit of an edge. I think her numbers go a little harder. Maybe KO with more of a defensive suite of options. But again, in the dark, I will take Syndra here and just rely on the raw aggression of that deck.
Okie dokie. So the person who actually won the event is Aaron. So well done, Aaron. But Adam actually won the when they played for fun. He actually won it. All right. So yeah. So you were right. Syndra, the more aggressive out of the two, and Aaron took the win. Let's here we go. Let's go to Rising Phoenix Games in Middlesbrough. So this is like
they're up to something at Rising Phoenix. This is a very different metagame than some other places.
So this is sort of like right at the top of the UK, just before we kind of like hitting Scotland. As you've seen, 6 Kanos. Yeah, a bit crazy. 9 wizards overall, taking 33% of the meta for this one. But it's kind of like what I touched on right at the beginning of the show. Unstable metas mean Wizards playground. This event certainly shows it. 3 assassins, 3 rune blades, 3 ninja overall. So a good smattering. But yeah, I was not expecting 6 Kanos to be the most represented hero.
It's cool how these regional differences pop up, though. Like if you are a player from Middlesbrough, do you know there is this hard preference for Kano in your neck of the woods, and do you have to tech a little bit around that? I think that's part of ProQuest season. I go back to my own times as a PTQ competitor in other games, and I played out of the Northeast of the US, and I knew who the great players in the Northeast were. I knew which way they leaned. I hedged against them. I thought about that in deck selection, sideboarding. You wouldn't make purposeful decisions just to be like, oh, this player is going to be there. But where you were making those borderline decisions, you can lean a little bit one way rather than another. And I wonder if there was some of that going on here in Middlesbrough. I guess we'll have to see how these Kanos ultimately do over the course of this tournament.
Yeah, when I first started doing the bet report, the north was massively divided to the south. We used to have sort of like Rune Blades winning up north and then Illusionists winning down south. It was just like, it was really weird how you had that massive divide, and then in the Midlands, the middle of the UK, essentially that's where everybody sort of like, you know, hit, and we called it the melting pot. So you didn't really know what you were going to expect in the Midlands at all. Let's see who made it into the top 4 though. Athena Halkia. She has been making top 4s and finals. Hasn't quite made it sort of like as yet, but she's made another top 4 playing Kano. Paul Goodchild playing Prism. He basically has got a skirmish and he just plays Illusionist. Used to play Dromai as one of his events using Dromai. Jake the Baker Warburton, who obviously you know that name. PT Baltimore top 8 to ProQuest and the Road to Nationals. Yeah, and Noah Hicks, he has won 3 skirmishes before, and he is also on Kano. So 2 out of the 6 Kanos made it into the top 4. So they're a pretty good conversion rate, really, considering it was 27 players.
Not bad at all. I'm going against both of them, though, in this top 8. On the Prism side, Kanos typically do not want to play that matchup. Not a huge fan of playing into Prism. I do think great Kanos can beat it, and Kanos can high roll, so far from a certainty, but that's the matchup you prefer to dodge. And then in the case of the Baker, I'm going with that Pro Tour top 8 pedigree here, and I do think this is actually a Kano-leaning matchup a lot of the time, but I've also just seen so many Syndras blow up these Kanos, despite the fact that they don't have much access to good AB options and don't have the type of pitch you would need to challenge Kano on that axis. It is just kind of a race, and sure, the Kano can get lucky and blow you up before you're able to get to them, but I just feel like in my experience, I see this work out for Syndra a lot of the time, and I think it's going to work out here.
Okie dokie. Let's confirm the results. Both the Kanos get through.
Totally wrong. Just absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. Awesome.
Well, the thing is, like, Noah is known for playing Kano. So both these players are big Kano players. I've referred to Noah before as sort of like the UK Brody Spurlock. He started playing when he was 15. His dad runs a sort of like Dice Cup in Nottingham, which is one of the stores I go and record at. He's a very good player. Hasn't quite made it into the big stage, but he'll sort of like, he's now going to the big events. Some people don't like it when I refer to him as a Brody Spurlock, but it's just trying to sort of like emphasise that he is a good young player coming through and started young. So both well known.
I mean, I think it's on us to call out those young stalwarts of the community. You know, Baz, you and I are a little over the hill. Sorry to drag you along with me here, but I think our love for TCGs, it came in an era where maybe TCGs weren't as widely accepted. They weren't
absolutely,
as part of the the cultural zeitgeist of the moment. And we had to kind of forge a unique path to be young players in that space. And now I think these young players are sort of doing the same thing, but in a different way. Like these spaces have become far more acceptable. And I do think just generally more participated in, but there's also a lot of young people just doing different things. And obviously, if you were to talk about just gaming as a whole, I think there's way more of a focus on the digital gaming space at a younger age. So when you find a young person who just has this passionate love for TCGs, of which there are many, and I'm happy to see the hobby moving on to this next generation, I think it's on us old guard to support them, call them out, build them up in their journey.
Yeah, talking about ages, you kind of touched on a subject that I talked to Scott about. I kind of feel like I'm not in the demographic really for Fab anymore. You know, I've reached the 5-0s, and it does make me wish, like, this is the best card game I've ever played, and I do wish I was 20 years younger. You know, simply for that fact that I wish that I
wish that for a lot of reasons. But Barry. Basically every reason you could think of.
I don't know. I'm really quite happy in life the way it is, but in regards to this game, I wish I was 20 years younger to be able to enjoy it more. But yeah, I support the community as much as I can. But yeah, it is what it is. You know, you just hope that people, appreciate it when it's here. So, that's the hardest thing, isn't it? Appreciate what you've got when you've got it. But let's get to this. Let's get to this matchup. Both very good Kano players.
I will flip a coin and I will choose Athena as the winner this go around based on nothing whatsoever.
Oh, she's got a good name. It's Goddess of War, isn't it? So it was Noah taking this one down. So well done, Noah.
It's got everything wrong in this event. Perfect.
Thing is, you're a bit of a disadvantage because you're not a UK local. So, you know what I mean? You're going from global players to sort of like, this is more of a macro look. But I thought it was quite good when we were at Prague. You actually make a list of who to follow at events. You make a little list of sort of like different players from different countries and see how they progress in through the event. It was very interesting to see how you work, and yeah, it was nice to see some of the names that are my friends on that list there. So let's go. We're going to leave UK. Let's go to Sweden. So a little bit different. This is 22 players. This is more polarized towards Florian. There was a lot of talk because this is week 4 that Florian was going to be, the next hot thing. But flipping heck, it was nice to see 3 Fang come out to play, though.
Yeah, Fang had a strong tail end of the ProQuest season in week 5, which I'm sure we'll get to. I think Fang was the 3rd or 4th best conversion, or I shouldn't say conversion, just total number of wins in that week and solid representation throughout. And I'm really happy with Fang's journey in this metagame. There were a lot of Fang doubters early on with that hero, just bemoaning the warrior curse that they seem to never escape. But Fang is a solid hero. Maybe not that S tier type hero, but I'm really pleased with the place in the metagame that Fang has taken up.
I know when I initially spoke to you in Prague, and I fell into the trap of, the bemoan assassin, woe is the warrior. And you did say then that you were worried about the strength of Fang coming out, but yeah, it's nice to hear that you say, yeah, he's doing all right. He's found his place. So there was as many brutes as Florian players, 3 warriors, 3 ninjas. So yeah, the diversity is actually pretty good across this one. But making it into the top 4, Christopher Rees on Fang. Then we've got Nicholas Bengtsson on Florian. He's got an RTN under his belt. And Mikkel Youngberg on Florian. And Nick Palm on Jarl. Now, I will say, if you're a Swedish player, you are playing Scepter. Okay?
Okay, interesting. That matters a bunch.
Yeah. So, how do you think these go?
Florian Mirror in the next round. I think, Fang struggles when he has to deal with split damage. Wants to play mostly red line. It's really hard to account for pitching into multiple rune chants. I think the matchup is decent. You're an aggro deck as Fang, so you can kind of challenge anyone. But I do think it's Florian leading. And then if we're pitch stacking, I really like Florian's chances against Jarl as long as you're able to protect stuff like your grasp, I think you're going to be just fine.
Okay. Let's see what happened. So Christopher Rees seems to know how to play against Florian. So he made it in against Mikael Ljungberg. So you've got the same. So you're going the same
logic
way?
Applies for me. Yeah, I can't shift here if I said it last time, but we'll see if Christopher Reeves can beat the odds.
Right, cool. Okay. Mikael won that one. So didn't quite work out for him there. Rode his luck against the same deck. Didn't quite make it. So well done to Mikael for winning that one. I've got no notes on the gold foil, which is a shame. But I have a video though.
Very nice. Yeah, I like how these matchups are playing out. You know, they're not super predictable right now. There is a lot of room for skill expression and variance to have a role in outcomes. So cool to see that.
Even in our local armory, we've got a guy, Matt, who plays Fang, and he does very well against Florian. Null Rune Boots, always going to be handy.
Yeah, always a solid pull. I agree. A nice little nod of the head. You always want your null runes around.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially at the minute.
Yep.
Erica gave us a Baz bonus, which is always nice. So this is Oslo, 21 players. Okay. Only 2 Florian. I was not expecting this. 5 Fang, 4 Syndra. This is a bit of a draconic fest because there's a Phi there as well. 29% warriors and 24% of them are Fang. But we got the same percentage again, 29% ninja, but that's split between 4 Syndras, a Phi and an Ira. So they certainly like their draconic heroes over in Oslo.
Is there something to the fact that Oslo is a very cold, chilly place, and they find themselves drawn to the warmth of the Volcorian heroes and their draconic abilities?
You might think Greenland and Iceland will be the same because they've got quite a lot of volcanoes there as well.
We'll have to track it. Yeah, I gotta check the stats.
I'll ask you next time. But who made it into the top 4? Bit of a Fang fest. We go. So Christopher Rees made it into the final the day before in Cool Cards. He's travelled all the way to Norway to make it into this one. Toff Hansen on Azalea, Adrian Fell on Fang, and Lucas Vaz on Fang as well. So what do you think about Azalea Fang?
Well, I think Azalea maybe has the edge in practice, but I'm going to go with my heart here and support the Fang gang entirely, and let's just push for a full Fang sweep as we head to our semifinals.
Okay. It was a full Fang sweep. So Christopher Rees, who made the final yesterday, is in the final today. Can he do one better against Lucas Vaz, who's also on Fang? I don't normally track Norway, so I don't really know these heroes.
This time.
Did he get his revenge?
This time Christopher gets the job done.
Okay. Let's see. He did indeed. Well done, Christopher, for persevering and going for it. Fantastic win. Shall we see the gold foil? Why not?
I would love to. Love the dedication, falling just short the day before and then coming back and staying battling, sticking to your guns, believing in Fang.
The thing is, it's a fair old distance to go as well. So, I don't know if he was a local or not. Dread Scythe.
Gets rewarded with the Dread Scythe. Okay.
So, maybe one day.
That's a weird one. I think there is a world where like Florian could play more Dread Scythes, but the metagame has to change quite a bit, and I don't know that necessarily we're getting to that point, even after these pretty big shakeups in the form of bans. So maybe a little bit lower on the quality side there as far as the gold foil pull goes.
Do you ever look at sort of like the uncommon weapons when you're looking to upgrade heroes in whatever cards they do? Do you know what I mean? Sort of like you've got the flail, the Hydra for brute or shadow brutes. Do you ever look at the sort of like these weapons in terms of like development? You know, what cards could potentially go with a build? In terms of like building
out the hero a little bit.
Yeah.
Sure. Yep. So some of them, yes, absolutely. It kind of depends on the weapon. I think some of them have a lot more potential than others. I will tell you that James White is a massive fan of Hexagore Leviah. Absolutely loves that deck. So he thinks about that deck quite a lot. And there's just these sort of niche weapons out there that are, I think they're just a really cool part of our game. It's cool that we have that variability. And, I think maybe that's something we'll look to build out more over time. I think that's an interesting, only semi-tapped vein of our game that we can still look to do more with.
I think sort of like warriors sort of like seem to look at the other weapons a fair bit because their cards are kind of siloed into dagger, sword, axe. So you kind of look at different builds depending on sort of like the weapon that you're, sporting for that hero. Whereas, the other heroes haven't got that silo in that warriors have got really. But it's a design space, isn't it? So it's all good. Let's look at the wrap up for this one. We won't spend too long on this, but sort of like 24 Florians 1 week 4, 15 news, 11 Azalea. Was this kind of like what you were expecting going into sort of like the first week without Aurora? You kind of like, you must have an idea of which heroes are going to come to the fore and go, right, yep, we're absolutely spot on to where we know where we are.
Yeah, I kind of thought there would be more Florian at this point, honestly. I think the metagame broke a little bit more diverse than I anticipated it would. I thought Florian was the pretty clear best deck at this moment in time. But that's not to say I thought it was a problematically best deck or a best deck that was excluding other options and made it so if you weren't playing Florian, you were wrong. I just thought there was a lot of evidence that it was probably going to take down the most ProQuests. And I don't see these kind of results as a bad distribution. If your best deck is winning 20% of your ProQuest events, that's a pretty healthy spot to be in. It's when you get into those like 25, 30% ranges where it becomes a bit more concerning, I would say.
Yeah, but we've gone past those days. You guys have done a hell of a good job designing it. It's like you're saying, the amount of spread for these heroes is excellent. Dash Inventor Extraordinaire picks up 6. Bravo actually picks up a win. It's just like, the WTR heroes, you just think, are they ever going to leave? It is what it is.
We're working on that.
Yeah.
A little bit of a multiplier coming into play going forward, and maybe that'll help, usher these heroes on to the living legend pastures, but we'll see how that goes. Certainly going to be keeping a close eye on that multiplier. I've heard early concerns about it. I'll say I would encourage folks to do some modeling, to take a look at the outcomes around those multipliers. And frankly, a lot of folks already have. I've seen a lot of people putting out spreadsheets and kind of breaking down what the actual impact of those multipliers are, just like we did internally. And to the folks who believe the sky is falling, I really encourage you to look at the numbers. And, if the sky does fall, we'll react to it. But based on what I've seen in modeling, if we applied this model to past events, I think it's all going to work out just fine.
Yeah, the thing is, there's a lot of people that basically don't like change. I always remember something that Stephen King, the author, said that basically,
Human nature.
You've always got your, you go to your work. You've always got your same sandwich, ham sandwich. You have it every day. It's a bit like Fab. I know what I get. This is the game I'm playing. And then suddenly someone changes your lunch, and you got sort of like cheese sandwich instead. And it's like, oh, the world's crumbling. But it doesn't. The gameplay is still the same. The essence of the game remains what you fell in love with. And I always look at the changes as a good thing. You guys have got more knowledge than us, and I always say to myself, in Bryan I trust. So, and it's always worked out. You banned the books, it was a good thing. Everything you've done, I've just gone, yeah, brilliant. Okay, let's move on.
I appreciate that a lot, Barry. But I will also say, the reason why I am comfortable accepting your trust is because I know I will not get it right all the time. And we know as LSS, we will not get it right all the time. But we'll adjust. Like I really have the hardest time when people kind of freak out and they're sure this is the thing that if we do it forever, it will doom the game. Well, we would just stop doing it then. Whatever that thing is, we will adjust and make it better and fix it. And if something goes wrong with this latest configuration of Living Legend, like we have so many times before, it's almost funny. Like we're kind of getting dragged in two places at once for constantly changing the Living Legend system, and then once under the assumption that we would not change it this time should this system not work out. I will just be frank. If this doesn't work, we will iterate again and continue to look for a system that yields the best results for everyone involved.
But you're trying to break new ground on the way a card game works, and it is a painful path sometimes. Like the resource system is a completely different path to any other TCG. It's just like we've got, that's what makes Fab great. It's just like it's not like every run of the mill one.
Yep.
I would say I actually think the Living Legend is actually, the new system with the 1.5 points for any hero that basically has been around more than 2 years. I actually think that's really good, because at the minute we've got 33 heroes. It must be very hard to design a game and design a card that fits in and doesn't sort of like mess around with the heroes you have. So with an accelerated system of Living Legend, like I touched on it before, sort of like Dash is still here. Azalea's still here. The Welcome to Wraith heroes are all still here. Ideally, I'm thinking you want to get it down to about 20 heroes rotating, but there must be a magic number that you just go, right, for a design space, this is the ideal number of heroes we want to be carrying in Classic Constructed. But
if you pressed me to tell you that number, maybe I could narrow down, but off the top of my head, I don't have an ideal number. I'm kind of willing to work under any frameworks, and I think they all have their ups and downs. But we do know that heroes can't stay forever. They have
absolutely.
to leave. We can't just bloat the roster forever. So there is an element of don't let it get too big, but I don't have a specific number. I'm like, no, we need to get down to 20 heroes exactly, otherwise the game will fail. I don't feel that way. It just creates different priorities, and we'll work under whatever priorities we have to work under. But we have to be conscious about bloat. We just can't let heroes go forever. And again, this is kind of like those contrasting things we're getting beat up on, is that at the same time where people are concerned that we might be pushing some of these older heroes out, they want their personal hero to also be served when we do things like expansion slot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And when there's 40 some heroes, it's tough to serve everyone appropriately. So as that range gets tighter, it becomes a little bit easier. So yeah, look, the burden's always on us, right? We have to prove the idea works. We have to prove it makes the game more fun. We have to prove it makes the game worth your time. I'm happy to accept that burden. We will show you what we're up to. And if you hate it, I guarantee we'll have open and constructive conversations around it, and we'll figure out the way it's supposed to be.
Nice. Brilliant. Righty. Let's see how this all shook up into week 5. So this is Alpha Spell in Stockholm, 30 players. This is day 1 of the double header in Stockholm. Yeah, this is a big number. Normally you don't see the jump like this. People kind of like see, yeah, this is sort of like the hero that's won the most from the previous week, but I've never seen a jump like this before. 33% of the field is Florian. There is a 50-50 mix of OTK and mid-range. So when I spoke to Erica about it, she said every Swedish player pretty much is on OTK. They're on the Scepter. Latvian and Estonia players are all on Reaping Blade, so they're all on the mid-range. So there's quite a good sort of like, argument about which build is actually the better one.
Yeah, I did a lot of data work around that, and now that Scepter's gone, I'm comfortable sharing that. I mentioned a lot about increased access to data for us, and one of the things we have with online deck list submission is we can actually break data into packets of Florians, and we were able to look at large sample sizes of Florians with Scepter versus Florians without Scepter. Such interesting data. I will say that I don't have a hard conclusion that one is better than the other. There are reasons to play both based on matchup spreads.
Yeah.
I will say that the Scepter builds were more polarized in their matchup spreads. They had more matchups that were decidedly in their favor, and they had more extremely negative matchups, whereas the more mid-range builds just play closer to the middle. So I actually think this is one where a lot of times as TCG players, we want to know the truth. What was the correct Florian build? I don't think there was a correct answer here. I think it was just kind of a preference, the style of game you wanted to play, how comfortable you were with polarization. And when you're talking polarization, it's always about metagame reads. So if you have a good read on the metagame, you probably should take that more polarized list if it works out in favor, where the matchups you're expecting to play a lot of are those favorably polarized matchups. So a really cool piece of data exploration that we were able to do around this Florian question that I'm excited we have these type of opportunities now.
Hamish had a chat with he does an EU calling. He had a chat with Dylan Thompson and Rob Catton, two players that you know. Both were on Florian and both were in different camps. So Dylan, as we saw earlier, was on the Reaping Blade and Rob was on the OTK deck with Scepter. So yeah, even the sort of like top players were sort of like, it was polarized.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, talented players all reaching different conclusions for this one.
Okay, so let's get back to this meta thing. 16% of wizards between Kano, Acilio and Verdance. So sort of like, you know, it's kind of nice that everyone, most classes have got a different hero that they can pick. 10% of the field are assassins, the same as warrior, but that was split between Fang, Kasai and Subaltern. 10% were brutes. KOs, Leviah and Rhinar. So lots of options. It just looks a bit top heavy when you look at 10 Florian.
Yep.
But let's get into the top 4. We've got Joachim Gustafsson. He's the former Swedish national champion and he's on Kano. You got Jacob the unmovable Trossing on Acilio. He's the current Swedish national champion, 3 RTNs, and he's currently 4th in the Global World Tour points and 2nd for Europe. So a player that you know very well. Emelis Demeki is on Arachne Marionette, and Gintz Dramanis is on Florian. So yeah, a wizard off. Which wizard do you think is more wizardy than the other?
Yeah, it's funny. You say I know Jacob Trossing very well, and I've certainly seen his name around these accolades, but I don't know him. And that's kind of actually strange. I know a lot of the top players in Flesh and Blood just by virtue of being around the game for so long and doing so many of these events. I've met so many of them. But I'm looking forward to getting to know more about Jacob because he is on a tear right now and doing very, very well. I'm sure we'll see more of him as we do coverage throughout the coming months as we really hone in on this Player of the Year race. So in the spirit of that, I will pick Jacob in that matchup. And this is the first chance I've had to pick an Arachne. So I have to do so. I have no choice. I do not care about matchup spreads or anything like that. I will pick the Arachne to go ahead and move on to top 2.
Okie. Righty. Right, one was right. Jacob made it through against Gintz. So Acilio versus Gintz on Reaping Blade.
Yeah, this is such a weird one. Like I don't think Acilio is that good right now.
Okay.
That being said, I know that great players can get a lot out of their heroes. You know, we're already building a narrative around Jacob here and being somebody to watch. But if I'm being honest, I don't remember if I saw any Acilios taking LL points in week 5. Could be wrong, and it was just down at the bottom of the metagame. That's kind of cheating, though. So I'm going to pick Jacob anyway. I'm just going to keep it rolling and just say he found a way with the Acilio deck.
So did he? Did he, everybody? He blooming well didn't he? He's not called unmovable for nothing.
Yeah, impressive stuff. Like, look, when I say I don't think Acilio is good, I don't think Acilio is top tier. And I feel like even Jacob wouldn't argue against that conclusion with me. But can Acilio win a tournament? Yeah, it absolutely can. And even in this metagame where Florian was such a good deck that, you know, it merits bans, right? After this ProQuest week concludes, we go ahead and we announce a ban for Scepter and a ban for Germinate. You can still show up if you're good enough with your hero. You know Acilio inside and out. You still get to take down an event like this. And I'm sure this was not the only time that Jacob had to battle a Florian with 33% of the field representing that hero. But Acilio carries the day here.
Yeah. I haven't got the gold foil video, but it wasn't opened on the day, but subsequently he sold it and it was a starfall. So, you know, good for Living Legend and good for Blitz and Commoner. So, righty, let's move on to the other one in Stockholm. So this was the next day. So not as big, only 24 players only, still good event. But again, 33% of the field for Florian. So yeah, I was quite surprised when I worked that out. 16% were brutes, up from the 10% from the day before. Wizards were the same as Alpha Spell, the same percentage. But a good spread.
Yeah, the Acilio hype has gotten out here. 3 Acilios showing up for this event. Curious if it can do the thing again.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so Acilio didn't make it into this time. So we've got Theo Rutterson on Dash IE, so hopefully trying to push her over the line. Nicholas Bankston, he's on Scepter, he's got an RTN. Ginks Dramenis, he's on Reaping Blade, and obviously we've seen him in the final yesterday. So, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I always root for somebody who perseveres and comes back, so I'll take Gintz in the bottom of the bracket. On the top side of the bracket, my brother played Florian this PTQ season, and he was keeping me updated on his journey. And he did win an event in the end, but before he took down his ProQuest, he had a top 8 where he got paired against the lone Dash IE in the room, and he hadn't practiced the matchup. And he messaged me afterwards, and he was like, "I felt like I had no chance whatsoever in that matchup." And I don't know how true that is. Frankly, I don't practice much against Dash IE these days, but I'll just take his advice, and I'll pick the Dash IE on the top side here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what build he had. A lot of the Dash players are kind of like playing the Dash slab with CYB. And obviously if Nicholas is playing Scepter, then it's that's going to be a long game. Christ. So
for sure.
Let's see who made it through. There we go. He did make it through. So Dash made it through against Gintz. So he made it through into another final as well. So he's doing well.
Yeah, I've kept this narrative going. I like to go ahead and root for the person who perseveres and comes back, but I don't think I can this time. I'm going to go with the Dash IE. I think this matchup is the reason you want to play Dash IE right now.
Okay. Let's see if Gintz made it through. He did.
He does.
So he persevered just like Christopher did earlier. So well done. Well done, Gintz. We're going to stick with Sweden. We're going to go down right to the bottom. Playo Tekit. Sometimes they get a few players come over from Denmark because essentially it's like a hop, skip and a jump. As we've seen here, sort of like Florian takes up the most, 21% of the field of Florian, 14% of the field of Mechanologists, and the same with Wizard. So Wizards ain't going away, but it's nice to see mechs take a nice share. I'm looking forward to them in the new set High Seas, and I shall complete my mech collection with with that one.
You excited for Puffin? You like what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I love it. Even the boats, all the boats, I was just like, oh man, we've got sky boats. This just looks absolutely brilliant. Completely different play style. From our usual sort of like mech. It's a lot of boost. I do like the move away from boost because I feel like most of the time, sort of like players are just going to try and fatigue you out because half your deck is going in the discard in the banish zone. So I like the move away to it. And the move to sort of like look to get cogs out. It kind of feels very much like get your hyperdrivers out. This time it's sort of like get your cogs out. So kind of similar to what mech players are used to if they're playing max. So not too different, but certainly get your cogs out and then boost, tap them to boost the power of those mech cards. Looks very fun indeed.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a cool little sub game. I'm looking forward to everyone getting the chance to go ahead and try them out.
Yeah, I was looking for the go agains, and I was like, right, okay, I need to get rums, don't I? I need rum to go again in this one. So,
well, a lot of those ships they modally tap, right? You get to choose whether you're taking the +1 or the go again on them. Maybe not so much with the big bangers. Some of the majestic ones just do their thing, but a lot of the like glue pieces, they have that split ability where you can either buff them or tap or get go again on them. And using that flexibility is a cool part of Puffin.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see how this shaped in. So we got Florian again's made it into the final. Made it into the top 4. Jurgi Di Carlo. Then we've got Diego Diaz on Syndra. Andreas Sternfeld on Dory. Nice to see her make it through. And Simon Nilsson on Prism, calling Prague winner, 13th globally and 8th in Europe for World Tour points. No stranger to you, a name you're well familiar with.
Yeah, I'm picking up Prism here. That's interesting. Simon had been playing Zen mostly as of late. Was playing KO before that. So Prism very much extending his range. And I will tell you, I am terrified for what Simon is going to do in this game as he builds his range, as he gets time put in, as he understands the game even more deeply. And it's wild to say that about somebody who's already won a calling. Like, obviously is just already incredibly good, but by his own admission, just hasn't had the time to put in that he wants to put in. And as he gets to put in that time, good luck everyone else in the world. It's going to be a battle to beat this guy.
The thing is, I'm not into Magic. I don't come from a Magic background. So when we were at Leon and someone was saying, talking about Simon Nielsen, I was like, who is this chap? But he's so approachable. It's unbelievable. That's what I love about this community. Sort of like big names, big players in other arenas, and they will spend time with you just to have a chat. There hasn't been anybody that I haven't just gone up to, sort of like Pablo, Michael Hamilton, sort of like Michael Feng, Brody. It's sort of like everybody just is so nice,
That's the secret of this whole thing, is that these these names are kind of a fiction. Like we create them, right? Mm-hmm. And we build up. And when I say we, I mean like as observers, we build up these fictions in our head. These people become larger than lives. And certainly our role as coverage providers is to enforce that narrative, to make them seem like giants. Someone like Pablo Pintor just seems like, somebody whose greatness is even hard to fathom at this point. He's accomplished so much in the game and, just a titan. But you meet the guy and he's just the sweetest guy, and we'll talk to literal anyone who wants to come up and be polite and have a nice conversation with him. And I think that extends to virtually the entire Flesh and Blood community. And even these folks like Simon who have come over from other games, they're coming over because they want to have that chance to connect with the community again. They want to have that real grassroots feeling, and to be able to have this bond over something that is not a corporate behemoth and feels like it's spiraling out of control, something that there is this true deep love from everyone involved. And I encourage everyone who goes to events, like Pro Tours, like World Premieres, to take advantage of the fact that we just have great ambassadors for this game. And, that extends to myself. I'm always willing to talk about Flesh and Blood. And I'm sure if I'm not, I will tell you I'm busy. And that's the only reason I would ever not want to talk about Flesh and Blood, if I have to run for coverage or something like that. But it never hurts to ask. I'm always willing to have a chat about the game. And I think the vast majority of Flesh and Blood players feel the exact same way. Nice.
Brilliant. Righty. Let's get on with these matchups though. Florian versus Syndra. What do you reckon?
Yeah, still leaning Florian in this matchup. Just a lot for Syndra to overcome without a lot of pitch. Although I do think the Syndras are starting to build with more blues in mind. So maybe starting to tighten up that matchup a little bit. And I think after the bans, just a small nerf to what Florian's capable of, I think this matchup's going to get even closer.
Okay. The one-sided game versus Prism against Dory.
Man, I don't like to go against Simon, but I know he hasn't played a ton of Prism, and Dory does knowledge check you pretty hard.
Okay.
And I feel like this is the type of test that maybe Simon's not ready for. So I'm actually going to go with the Dorinthia in this instance. It's rare that I pick against Simon, but we'll see how it plays out. I'm sure I'll be punished for it.
Righty, let's see. He did make it through.
Of course. Of course.
Simon, apology is on its way. So, Florian versus Prism.
All right, I'll just pick Simon. I should know better than to go against him. We'll see if it works out here.
Okay. It was Yergi. Okay. Yeah. So Florian won that. Congratulations to Yergi. Well done. Well done indeed. Gold foil wasn't opened. No video this time, sadly. Okay, so that wraps up Sweden. Let's go back to England. This is Dice and Destiny in Canterbury. So sort of like East Coast, just above sort of like where the Thames sort of like goes into England. So 36 players. Canterbury always gets a good turnout. Fantastic store. Normally it's streamed. This time it wasn't. It's normally streamed by the Cup of TCG guys. But 11% of the field are Florian, but also 11% are Warriors, Ninjas, Brutes, Assassin, Wizards and Guardians. So even though there is a more of a leaning towards Florian, the different classes are still making up the same percentage in this field. 16% are Draconic heroes, 22% are Earth talented heroes, and 25% of heroes are all hailing from Volcor. So it's the most popular location for heroes to come from. But what a spread. Oh my God.
Yeah, interesting little spread. And I think we've sort of seen that throughout these breakdowns is it's very easy to get caught up in the narrative of, oh, Florian, best deck, wins, I think at the end of this week, wins something like 27% of events. And yeah, that's a heck of a performance. But you show up to an average tournament, you kind of have to be prepared for everything, honestly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You can't hard deck into Florian in that fashion. So yeah, a really cool metagame, one that I would be very happy to sit down and play.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't be a one-trick pony. You've got to know your matchups if you're expecting to win a ProQuest or any event, really. Knowledge is power. Let's see who made it into the top 4. Jess Swandale on Florian likes to play Guardians, so not too far off with Florian really with his big hitters. Noah Green, she's got 2 skirmishes. Noah Greenwood's on Fang, he's part of the Cup of TCG guys. Shy Edgington is on Azalea, he's got a skirmish, and Joshua Austin is also on Florian. So not a bad conversion rate for Florians, 50% into the top 4.
All Florians in the top 2. I want a Florian mirror to go ahead and settle this one out.
Florian mirror. Everybody else would groan, wouldn't they? But it's not. Yep. It's Fang.
It's the exact opposite.
So,
and I'm really, really bad at this. I should figure out exactly what I believe is going to happen and then just tell you the exact opposite.
Some people do that. I will say that this game wasn't played. Okay, it was a concession, but it would be nice to get your views on sort of like this match, Fang versus Azalea.
Yeah, I think the way these type of matchups typically go is a deck like Fang is not going to have the defensive options that you want to have against something like Azalea. You just can't play through that, dominate effectively. So I would anticipate Azalea to have the edge here. And I think Azalea is in quite a strong position as we head into national season. I don't know if she's going to make it all the way through national season, honestly. I could see her going ahead and hitting LL before we wrap it up.
There were some people thinking she was going to go this week in the group I was with.
Yeah, that was always going to be a stretch. She would have had to have big battle-hardened performances to go ahead and go this week. But
yeah, which didn't happen. What was it? New and Florian won?
2 Florians and a New. There was one of the battle hardens that I believe had 3 Azaleas in the top 8, so it looked like it was in range for a while, but was not able to convert.
All right, cool. So let's confirm who made it. Concession-wise, Shy made this one. I would say no local has ever won a big event in Dice and Destiny. That was quite a big fact. I was not aware of that. So yeah, come on, guys.
Advantage at Dice and Destiny.
Indeed, no home advantage at all. A lot of people from the South Coast go to it, and sort of like the London crowd all go to there as well. So it's a good location. We're going back up north. It is ProTech Games, Stockton on Tees, so a little bit south of Middlesbrough that we covered earlier, which had that high turnout of Kanos the week before. But Kanos has still turned up, and so has Florian. But yeah, this is it's got a good spread, but yeah, people are really going into the heroes that now. I wasn't expecting 4 Florian, 4 Kano, 4 Victor. Victor has not been massively popular, especially when new.
4 Victor is a surprise for sure.
Not great against Kano and not great against new. It's just like, that's going to be a rough day.
Yeah, the Kano matchup, I find that like a well-prepared Guardian, they give themselves a good shot a lot of the time, especially if they know they're going to have to face Kano and they're preparing for it early on, as folks in Stockton may be doing, given the prevalence of Kanos there. The new stuff is challenging. Although I will say, for how good new is and the fact that she was the second best performing deck in basically both of these weeks, and I believe the third best performing deck always when Aurora was still in the metagame. So just always right there in the conversation. I feel like her representation has been pretty low throughout these events, and we're not seeing her in these top 4s either, frankly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Should we see if she made it into this top 4? She didn't. No. So Tim McCarthy on Kano. He's got 2 ProQuests. Normally see Tim playing Prism. Normally. But yeah, switch to Kano for this one. Thomas David on Arachne Marionette. Athena Halkia on Kano. If you remember, she made it into the final for Middlesbrough the week before. And Jules Dixon on victor. So rolled the roulette and has made it into the top 4. So well done, Jules. So what do you think these matchups are going to go?
Yeah, we'll get to see that Guardian matchup now, but I'm going to pick Athena here again on that redemption quest. And you know I am just picking an Arachne in the dark because that's how we do things.
Fair enough. Okie dokie. It was a Kano mirror.
So a Kano mirror.
They like
Athena
Kano
has to do it
up north.
again. Another Kano mirror to go ahead and decide whether she'll get the ProQuest invite.
You going Athena, yeah?
Of course. Yeah, she has to get it done this time.
Sweet. It was. Athena has, this year, she's made it into so many top 4s, but not managed to make it through. So perseverance, dedication, flipping well done. Excellent job. Gold foil wasn't opened, so no video, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm really pleased, Athena, that all your hard work's paid off. Sort of like Paul Goodchild that was in the top 4 for Middlesbrough. He said that she's absolutely just kicking ass up there. So yeah, she's doing really well. Righty, let's get into the wrap up for this week. As you know, you were saying, Florian's best deck. It's, shows it. I was quite surprised that Syndra is the next best deck. I mean, she's come out of nowhere. She hasn't really performed sort of like up until this point. And, she's made a mark coming into sort of like just before national season. And as you were saying, she's third. She's always picking up points. I think she's picked up 369 points this season. Consistently doing close. Well. So
another hero that almost certainly isn't making it through national season. I suspect we see probably Azalea, Dash, and New all go over the course of these weeks of national season, which is really interesting. Very early on this year, we started to do our modeling and start talking from a coverage perspective, and we started building our narratives, and it just became so clear that this logjam, this living legend logjam that we've experienced for quite some time now, was absolutely going to burst, and just tons of heroes were about to leave the game. And it's been a tumultuous time, right? Just a time of rapid change. And, I could see that being jarring for folks, especially maybe folks who just got here. I will tell you that we had a time of just incredible calm before this, where heroes were just not reaching LL status. So one of the things about a system like LL is that it's unpredictable, volatile, strange things happen. And we're experiencing some of that volatility right now. And I think you just have to kind of embrace it and enjoy the ride and enjoy the rapid iteration that these metagames are going to go under. And if that's not your cup of tea, I respect that. That's cool. It's going to change. We get to go through all these modes as Flesh and Blood players, and we'll have more stable metagames in the future for sure.
I think the meta game's actually quite stable when you look at these figures. Let's take Florian out. Okay, Florian, you've dealt with him. New banned and restricted, you've dealt with that problem. But when you look at the classes that have actually picked up wins, you go 14 wins for Assassin overall, 12 wins for Wizard overall, 10 wins for Warrior overall. They might be, you might see a lot of, different heroes there, but the classes are actually coming through and taking wins. The good thing is you've got depth and breadth of heroes, and that shows it. Florian, everyone loves Runeblade. Unfortunately, everyone's sort of like, is going into Florian and not really playing Vincent. But you know what I mean? Some people are stands of their hero classes, and perseverance pays off. And that's
well.
What's
Look,
happening.
over in the U.S. in Hartford, there was a 200-person battle hardened, and there was a Vincent semifinal mirror, and ultimately, Brody playing Vincent fell in the finals. But Vincent, also very real hero, deserves to be in the conversation amongst so many of these other heroes. And yeah, I think this metagame is Florian heavy, for sure. I think we've adjusted around that, and I'm excited to see where things go from here. I think we could be in a really cool, interesting, healthy place.
when we look at the heroes that are in the top 3, they are all the highest scoring heroes for this season. So obviously Florian got 502 points, Nu got 369, and Syndra scored 327 points this season. So, you know, as I've kind of like said a couple of times, Syndra hasn't sort of like hit the top, you know, the top sort of like events like the Battle Hardens and sort of like, you know.
Well, she was early, right? She came out and went back-to-back callings to kick off her reign in Constructed. And I think the world adapted around her quickly. And it'll be interesting to see as some of these other options change. Can we afford to start adapting around Syndra again? Is that a deck that we can put some metagame focus on? Or is, you know, there's something in High Seas that completely invalidates Syndra? That's another question we still have to unpack. So a lot of unknowns heading into national season for sure.
Yeah, but that's a good thing. The unknown's always a good thing. Living Legend top 3, still Dash IE 976, Nu's on 954, and Azalea's 931. So as you touched on earlier, these heroes could go during the national season. You know, if you've got a nationals near the end of the season, are you going to have the opportunity to play those heroes? Especially if your favourite hero is Nu or Azalea, it's probably going to be gone. So start planning for something else.
Yeah, I would have a backup option ready for sure.
Absolutely. Let's do the meta map. I always like doing this one. So this shows sort of like the spread of heroes. So this is Sweden. Florian takes top spot in Sweden. Used to be Guardian. Every event was won by Guardian in Sweden when I first done this. So it'll be interesting when the Guardian Master set comes out, how many of those Guardian players are going to flock back to that class, and we'll start seeing sort of like them post results. Over into sort of like, this is Ireland. So Florian again taking Ireland with one Azalea player. This was literally Dylan Thompson versus Conor McGrath. So these are the sort of like the two best players in Ireland, and one of them is going to probably win nationals. But there are some very good players. You know, anybody could really take it in Ireland, but these two guys sort of like they're the favourites for sure. This is Scotland, so a bit of a mix. Aurora, obviously, before she went, and then we've got Prison there in Mox in the Hole. This is the north of England, so as we covered, sort of like bit of a Kano fest. But look, Arachne won one near the beginning of the season, so that's all right. Florian again, so a big mix, but Kano takes the north. Into the Midlands, a complete mixed bag. So nothing's kind of set in the Midlands. As I was saying, sort of like it's a bit of a melting pot. North and south collide, anything goes. But the east of England, where Levia won, is pretty much brute territory. Brutes do very well east of England.
Wild, man.
Yeah, it's weird.
I love that this stuff happens in our game. It's so cool. Like, it's so cool that there are these, you know, hyper localized trends where you can say this, and I know you're not bullshitting me. Like, I know you mean what you're saying, and it's very true.
Yeah, I keep a record as well. So, you know, that's why I do my little spiel. I just check. I record the hero that they've won with as well. So, yeah, it's really good down there. And then sort of like down south, a real mixed bag again. So, used to be Illusionists, but sort of like Rune Blades are coming through a little bit. But just London. London can be a little bit different, sort of like a whole mixed bag again. So sort of like, you know, 3 of the heroes that have done very well this season have, you know, they've come through. But overall, Aurora takes the UK, 5 wins. Florian and Azalea both have 3 wins across the UK. Okay. But Aurora, she's no longer with us anymore. So, yeah, pick a different hero. Lastly, Bryan, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Yeah. I'm really chuffed that you did. As I said to you, I was a bit nervous going into this one, but yeah.
I don't know what you're nervous for. We've spent plenty of time together. I'm more than happy to come on and chill with you. And like I said, I kind of do this myself anyway. So this is kind of a look in how I spend every single one of my weekends, except I do it lonely and quietly, just staring at metagame results and understanding who's winning where. So not much of a shift for me, honestly.
Dude, it's an open invite. If you ever want to come on, just give us a shout. You know, I'll always have a space. Yep. For Sweden, Erica, thank you so much. Erica provides all the results for Sweden. Worked like a trooper over the last 2 weeks, providing sort of like 4 or 5 events. So thank you very much to Erica and the surrounding Swedish community. Redline New Main Chris for Ireland, and then Robbie Catlin, Jay Kelly, Cole, Jess Swandale, Callum from Cup of TCG, and Paul Goodchild. Thank you for all the event information. As always, I can't do this without the communities I support, and as you see, sort of like, you know, it's nice to see sort of like we get names like Bryan coming on to have a go. As always, please subscribe to the channel. It would be nice to get to 1,700 subscribers. If you would like to take part in the Patreon, please go and check out the link. It's in the video description below. Bryan, is there anything that you want to say as you head out to Taipei?
I will just say thank you to you. I think what you do here, this kind of localized approach, it's so important for creating scenes that people feel a part of. They're able to make incredible accomplishments, and those accomplishments are made more real by your coverage of them. You have added legitimacy to your local world and your local flesh and blood scene, and you've been able to create these narratives. And just, I don't know where our game would be if it wasn't for people like you and what you do in these sort of localized communities. It's the reason why we're able to succeed on a global scale, is because of efforts like yours. So truly, thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Cheers, Bryan. No, that means a lot. So catch up with Bryan this weekend. IC's Premier Taipei. Do not miss it. We haven't seen all the cards yet, and I just want to see the Fable. I want to see the Fable this time round. I'll be at the call-in in Bologna doing coverage of Alan. Then we're on to the UK. Then we're international season. USA kicks it off. You're going to be there?
I will be there in the US. Somehow I'm also flying to Las Vegas after I fly to Taipei. So, yeah, I will be there doing coverage, kicking off with the first CC event of the season, and I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
That's going to be cool. So that's the 6th to the 8th of June. UK Nationals, 27th to the 29th of June. It is being streamed.
I'll be there too.
Are you?
No, I won't actually. No.
Yeah, you suffer with jet lag. You don't like coming to the UK. Yeah. That's capped at 160 players. UK Nationals. Something always happens. I'm so looking forward to it. It's our 5th Nationals we're streaming. I can't wait. Irish Nationals 4th to the 5th of July, and Swedish Nationals 5th to the 6th of July. So a massive weekend for the 2 other countries that I cover. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Whoop. Didn't want to do that. That's the plain screen. And hopefully I'll be telling my next tale about your adventures. Okay, so until that time, see you soon.